Audio, see if they can hear me in there now. Yep, folks, but like I was saying, we've got high school football kicking off again this weekend, week 2 starting. We've got some college football kicking off this weekend as well, and we've got NFL football kicking off tomorrow. The Chiefs taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Getting excited for that here on Centex Primetime. I am your host, Jalen Gillis. I'm here joined with a friend of the show, Waco Football Hall of Famer and the Centex legend, Mr. Wayne Walker, in studio with us as well today. Wayne, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on today, Central Texas?
Yeah, just getting ready for some football. It is that time of year, folks.
It is that time.
Make sure you guys that are watching with us, if you want to watch with us, go over to Centex Sports TV on YouTube. Check us out there. Or if you want to listen to this content, you can go to CentexSports1.com. Also, download the app on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store, Centex Sports 1 app. You can listen to this every single weekday, 5 to 7 p.m., and you can come in here and listen to us talk some football and talk some sports here in the Central Texas area. Folks, we got a lot to talk about and plenty of things to get to. We've got some college games coming up this weekend, and on the show we've been talking about it the last few days. And Wayne, I want to get your opinion on a couple of these games. And from this last kickoff weekend that we got to see, we know the AP top 25 polls have changed, and some teams have moved around in the rankings. Some stayed consistent, like Georgia and Ohio State. Texas moved up a spot after they put a beat down onto the Colorado State. We've seen Alabama jump up as well, and we've seen some teams move out. Florida State falls out of the rankings completely after starting 0-2. They lose to Boston College on Monday Night Football, and going to 0-2 after being projected to win the ACC. And, Coach Norvell, he's got a lot of making up to try to do. Right. But right now, things not looking so great out there in Tallahassee, Florida. What are your thoughts about Florida State dropping to 0-2, and did you get to catch any of the game?
Yes, I did catch a little bit of the game. It was much ado about Florida State last year being left out of the BCS playoffs. Mm-hmm. And, they were supposed to have this chip on their shoulder this year and come out and prove that they belong. And they start out 0-2, lose a battle to Georgia Tech overseas, and then come back and lose a home game to a Boston College team that wasn't ranked, as well as the Georgia Tech team that wasn't ranked. So you got to feel sorry for the players, but it's a prove me game. You have to go out and prove it week in and week out, and you have to make sure that when you have those type of expectations, you have to carry them out.
Yeah, when you're coming in ranked top 10 in the nation, like you said, coming off of an undefeated season last year, you had your gripe because you didn't get into the college football playoffs, even though you were undefeated. And I understand their gripe with that. I mean, you win all the games in front of you. That's the best you can do. They left him out because the quarterback got hurt, but you did what you were supposed to do. You went out there and won all the games that were put on the schedule. You feel like you deserve a right to be able to get into the playoffs.
Right. I mean, you pay a quarterback to come in, basically.
Yeah.
To come in and to be your leader, and he's been terrible the first couple of games, and they're both nationally televised games, and they're the only show on television at that point. And you come in and you lose 2 big games, so it's not a good start in Tallahassee.
No, not a good start at all, and I'll be interested to see how they'll go forward with this quarterback position because, like you said, I mean, he just hasn't played good. I think he's got a 48 QB rating to start the season. Both games looked very unimpressive, honestly. Talking about him losing to Georgia Tech and losing to Boston College. But it's not completely his fault. It's not all on him. But when you bring in a guy, like you said, essentially pay a quarterback to come in, because we know that's how the transfer portal is working nowadays. And I seen a video of an old video online that was kind of circulating of Dabo Swinney when he brought him down there, and they were flying a plane over the stadium, and he was telling them, this is where you're going to be throwing touchdowns and all that. And that video didn't age well, and we see how he's been moved around
Yeah.
multiple times since then. So I'm not sure where they go forward from here, but at this point, I think you got to give the backup a shot. Maybe you let him go out there another quarter or so, but I don't see any benefit to that. I say, hey, let's put the backup in. The fans were chanting and cheering for the backup to come in during the Boston College game. So I say, hey, let's just give it a shot and see what can the backup do come out here. He can't do too much worse than what he's done so far.
Exactly. You have 8 games left on the schedule. The season's not all lost. Maybe a BCS title shot is lost, but you still can you can probably win your conference or be relevant in the in college football. But as far as BCS, it's over. But like you said, you need something. You need a new light. You need something else to shine, or you need someone else to shine. And DJ hasn't gotten it done, so hey, give someone else a chance.
Yeah, you might as well see what the backups got in there, and they're kind of out of contention for the ACC is what it looks like as of this point. A couple more teams have moved up into the rankings. Georgia Tech now ranked 23 after their win. Louisville ranked 22 after they won last weekend, and North Carolina State Wolfpack have moved up to number 24, and they've got a huge game this weekend against Tennessee as well. So the ACC at this point still wide open. I just don't see it being
Florida State.
Yeah, being Florida State.
Well, it's a long season, and teams will play each other and beat up on each other. So you never know what happens in college football.
Yeah,
it's still early, and so with that being said, they would have to go undefeated the whole way, but it can be done. They went undefeated last year, but the start of the 2024 season looks kind of bleak right now.
Yep, and ACC, like we said, wide open and staying in that topic of the ACC. Another team that looked pretty underwhelming in that week one as well is the Clemson Tigers with Dabo Swinney. Like you said, you're coming out national television. This is the big game to start off college football weekend, taking on a Georgia team that's hungry and ready. Another team that missed out on the playoffs last year, and everybody thought Clemson would come in hungry and ready to start this year as well, but just didn't see that. A 34-3 loss against Georgia. And yes, I know Georgia is the number one team in the nation, everybody. And of course, they deserve to be number one team in the nation and one of the best programs in the nation. But to lose to a team like that, 34-3, where your offense just looked abysmal at times and they couldn't get anything going. You couldn't even get a touchdown put up on the board. And you're projected coming into the season to be one of those teams at the top, looking to get a playoff berth. Still probably projected as one of the top teams in the ACC, so they still have a chance to get a playoff berth. But after looking so bad against Georgia, Georgia really just did anything they wanted in that second half. The first half was close. It was 6-0. And in the second half, Georgia came out and dominated. They put up 14 points in both quarters, and Clemson was only able to put up a field goal. So after seeing that, what do you think about this Clemson team moving forward, even though this is just week one for them?
Well, you look at it and you say, is Georgia really that good, or is Clemson really that bad?
Yeah.
Like you say, they look terrible. When you go into a season and you have these high expectations, they have to be fulfilled. And looking at Clemson, it's going to be a long season for them too as well. Offense looked horrible.
Terrible.
They couldn't move the ball. Georgia was dominant, and they're going to have to change some things in Clemson as well, especially in the offensive side of the ball. And we'll see. Like I say, it's a long season. Can you turn it around? Well, we'll see. And we'll see if Georgia was just that good or if Clemson was just that bad.
Yeah, Clemson stays in the top 25 at 25 after that loss to Georgia. And like you said, it's looking at the schedule, it's kind of I don't want to say cupcake schedule, but it's not too imposing of a schedule. They got Appalachian State next week. They'll have a tough game after that against North Carolina State. But after that, there's really not a game that's even that should give them a lot of trouble until they play Louisville in November. And that's as of now, the last ranked team they'll play for the season. They'll end the season against Virginia Tech, Pitt, Citadel, and South Carolina. So there's plenty of opportunity for this Clemson team to get back into the win column. But that offense has got to look much, much, much better for them to be able to put up even a fight against some of these other teams in the ACC, which is a conference that a lot of people, including myself, are kind of down on this year. But they still got a shot to go and get this conference title, though.
You're exactly right. Like you said, they have a cupcake schedule, so that'll allow them to get back into competing for a conference and possibly getting into BCS. Just depending on what Georgia does and how Georgia dominates the rest of the season. If Georgia goes through the Southeast Conference and dominates and beats everybody and beats them by 14, 20 points or so, then you're looking at a dominant Georgia team, and everybody will go back to this Clemson game and say, hey, Georgia was that good. It was the beginning of the year. And as fans, and we forget, week eight, we'll bring it up, but that's forgotten.
Yeah.
And they have a chance to go out and get much, much better. So we'll see if they can do that or if it's going to be a long season for Dabo.
Yeah, I don't know how many more long seasons Dabo can take out there in Clemson. I think if they drop 3 or 4 games this season, he might be looking for a change of scenery as well, I believe, just because of how the faithful here in Clemson have kind of gone against him at times, just seeing how he's doing here in the ACC in these last few years. But like we said, ACC wide open. I'm really liking this Miami team with getting led by Cam Ward at the quarterback position to be able to really take a shot at this conference title and possibly get Miami back into those talks of being one of those top schools, something we haven't seen in quite a while, honestly. And he's got a chance. He's got a chance to do that for that Miami team to be able to take off in the ACC.
Well, Miami looks like it's the best team in Florida right now.
Oh, yeah.
And a quarterback change can make the biggest difference. And Cam Ward looked good. He looked like a leader. Leading his offense up and down the field. But the Florida Gators, they are in the same conversation as Florida State right now.
Same conversation.
Billy Napier has a lot of pressure on him to go down and win in Gainesville, and he hadn't been getting it done. So Miami is definitely the best team in Miami, and we'll see them going forward and see what they'll be able to do.
Yeah, talking about that Florida team, they've got a way tougher road ahead of them than the last team we were talking about with the Clemson Tigers and Bill Napier. I mean, it's going to be a tough road for him if he's able to stick this one out. I think talking with Rocky yesterday, and we kind of labeled that Week 3 game. They got Texas A&M as really a season determiner for both of those programs. The way A&M looked against Notre Dame, and they're going to be coming out and trying to get a win in the SEC. And then you got Florida, who's, at this point is just kind of holding on after what happened to them against Miami.
But A&M would get a pass. They have a new coach.
Yeah.
And so with a new coach, you always get the opportunity, even with a lot of expectations, coming into the season. But they had a lot of guys that transferred. A&M would get a pass. But A&M played pretty well against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they did have a new coach.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, on the other hand, they look pretty bad. So I'm giving A&M the edge in that game. So
yeah, for sure.
Like you say, that'll be a career, a career breaker for Billy Napier.
Yeah,
because he's about to run himself out of town. And one thing we know about Florida football, if you don't win, you must go.
Yeah,
it's Florida, Texas, and California.
Yeah.
So those big states have expectations for their coaches, and if you're not winning, then you got to go.
Yeah, those 3 states are a no-nonsense type of tolerance by the fans. We've seen it. We've seen it play out plenty here just being in Texas. How many coaches did Texas run through before they finally was able to stick around with Steve Sarkisian and how he's turned that program around there? But, they went through 3 or 4 or 5 coaches before they could get it right because the expectations are high, and we know A&M is
same way.
Yeah, same way with A&M, and they're they're paying a coach right now $70 million to be at the house. So I know that they want to get some wins because they're dishing out a lot of money for a guy that don't even have to coach football anymore.
Just sitting on the couch watching football now, basically. But so those three states, and like you said, Texas, University of Texas, 5 or 6 coaches paying 3 or 4 coaches still, and man, those guys want to win bad. The alumni want to win. So if you can't get your job done in those states, that brand of football, then you won't be working for long.
Yeah. Well, one more I want to touch on before we move forward and talk about some of the games for this upcoming weekend in college football, because there's still some really good games coming up this weekend as well. Just staying in that SEC and kind of California talk there, LSU went to Vegas to go take on the USC Trojans in a game that LSU was favored to win and were winning for a good portion of the game. But in that fourth quarter, things kind of turned around. USC outscored LSU 14-3 in the fourth quarter, and USC was able to come out with the win in that one, 27-20. A lot of people saw the post-game interview with Coach Kelly up there at LSU. He seemed pretty upset about his team dropping games like this because they've been in multiple games like this going back to last year or these last couple of years that Brian Kelly has been down there in Baton Rouge, and they haven't been able to get those big games like this done since Coach O was fired a few years ago after they won their national championship, and they drop another game that they were leading in the game, seem to have had control of the game, and a game that they're projected to win, and USC propels themselves up as they moved up into the rankings even higher after picking up that win against LSU, and a lot of people were kind of down on their coach out there at USC at Lincoln Riley, but it seems like he's kind of got this team going right now on a really good test. They got to play LSU, a team that was ranked 13 before their win. They're now ranked 18, and what did you think about this game? I guess really for both sides, for USC being able to pull out a tough win like this, and then LSU, I think 5th year in a row of losing week 1 for LSU.
Well, absolutely. On the USC side, looked like they played a little defense.
Yeah.
They played a little defense in the fourth quarter. When they had Caleb Williams, they were basically offense, but they could score 50 points and then give up 55.
Yeah.
Those were the type of shootouts they were in last year because the defense couldn't stop anyone. But it looked like that has changed. They brought in a new defensive coordinator, and the defense looked well. They defended the pass very well, and I think that's what propelled them to victory. On LSU side, Brian Kelly is an offensive type of guy, and nothing drives a coach more crazy than getting 3 rather than 7.
Yeah.
So when you get in the red zone, you want to score points, and you don't want to kick 2 field goals because you're saying that's 6 compared to 14.
Mm-hmm.
So they made the mistakes. They penalties cost them.
Oh yeah.
Not being able to execute in the red zone hurt them. And like I said, that's why he was banging the podium, because he's an offensive guy. And those little things, those little mistakes, and not being able to execute in the red zone will drive a head coach, and especially an offensive guy like him, crazy.
Yeah, Brian Kelly teams, like you said, not known for their defense, and not known for their run game either. And that's really what the kind of oil and water mix is with Brian Kelly being at LSU, because LSU is known for their run game and for their defense. That's what they've built this program off of, at least for the last 20 years, how they've been successful after years of having multiple running backs in there that's gone to the league, Leonard Fournette, all these type of people, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Even when they won in 2019, they still had a running game, even though their passing game was so prolific. And then they had a defense. They had a monster defense. And Brian Kelly, like you said, his teams are not really known for their defense like that, and they're not really known for their running game. And looks like those two things came back to haunt them in this game against USC.
Because you have to have balance. When you get a lead, you have to be able to run the ball and take some time off the clock. And if you can't do that and you're just basically one-dimensional and you're just passing the ball, then it's going to be tough sledding for you in the fourth quarter, because now the tempo has changed. The team knows your game plan. They're kind of focused in on everything you're doing and tuned in on everything that's going on the field. So you have to be able to, in the trenches, knock people off the ball and be able to run the ball and take 4 and 5 minutes off the clock at a time. And if you can't do that and you're just going out there and you're throwing it 3 downs, 1, 2, 3, 3 and out, then you're going to give teams chances to come back. And this is big boy ball. So, everybody's out there trying to win and everybody's out there trying to compete. So if you can't do that, then you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, playing in the SEC especially, it's a monster schedule. Every single week it seems like it's going to be another monster game. And USC, after the game, Coach Lincoln Riley said that's some good old Big Ten football, so they're embracing the new look Big Ten for them and being in it, because we know there's been the talks of the Big Ten or the SEC, since they're kind of both building up to be these power conferences in college football. A lot of debate on which one is the best one. Big Ten looking pretty decent right now, and we'll see. We get a real test of that this weekend, as we'll talk about some games coming up for this weekend, as Texas will be taking on Michigan. So we'll get a real good taste of this new SEC versus this new Big Ten. Folks, want to thank everybody for watching with us so far today. Got Wayne Walker on here with me. I'll be joined later by PJ Gaither as we'll talk some high school football as well. Got an interview with Tony Adams as well that's going to be coming on just a little bit later. He's going to talk about Lake Belton and Belton, the two teams that he covers out there in the Central Texas area for high school football. So we know we got a lot coming up for high school football as well. Folks, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to preview some of these college games that we got lined up for this weekend. A lot of good football coming up, and we still have in hour number 2, got some high school football and some NFL football to talk about as well. So stay tuned, folks. You're watching Centex Primetime here on Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports Network Radio Central Texas. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for something new and unforgettable in Waco? Come to the Blazing Asian, where authentic Cambodian flavors meet creative culinary flair. Voted People's Choice as Waco's #1 Asian restaurant since 2019 by both the Wacoan Magazine and the Waco Tribune Herald. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin, we're serving up family recipes with a twist. Blazing Asian egg rolls are rolled fresh daily, and their sauces or marinades are made in-house with love. Stop by today. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin. And for Baylor students, enjoy 10% off with your student ID.
It's the family feels for me. The banana pudding, peach cobbler make you want to holler for me. It's the candy yams, mac and cheese, beef tips, pork tips and rice, collard greens. It's the sweet potato pie, sweetie. Fried chicken you've been missing, the lemon sweet tea dressing on Sundays when you all dressed up. Chest pie, buttermilk, and pound cake. Cornbread with butter just dripping, always fresh baked. If you need Southern style, soul food, home cooked meals that you can feel. Chicken and dumplings, chicken pot pie, 719 South 11th Street. Sassy's, come on by.
Central Texas, learn how to be a part of 254 Media Group, home of Magic 94.5, 94.5 The Beat, and CBS Sports Radio 94.5 HD2. Inquiring businesses, please call 254-252-4206. That's 254-252-4206. Or email Roy at 254mediagroup.com.
When you suffer an injury at home, work, or on the road involving a car, 18-wheeler, or motorcycle, the first thing you need to do before calling anyone is dial 1-800-INJURIES for locally owned and operated the Zimmerman Law Firm. Hey, this is Big Rich, and the Zimmerman Law Firm has represented thousands of Central Texans in the last 50-plus years and handled more personal injury cases than any other local firm. When you call the Zimmerman Law Firm, you talk to a lawyer, no matter how big or small your case, and they guarantee you're financially taken care of because they they only get paid when you win. Hey, don't just take my word for it. Heart of Texas Readers' Choice has named Zimmerman Law Firm the best in Waco. So remember, if you get injured at home, work, or on the road, it just takes one call, y'all, to 1-800-INJURIES or zlawhelp.com for the Zimmerman Law Firm and tell them I told you to call. Principal Office, Waco, Texas. No fee unless you recover.
CBS Sports Central Texas, KWBT HD2 Waco, Temple, Killeen, Fort Hood is CBS Sports Central Texas, changing sports radio.
Welcome back, everybody, as we still here on Centex Primetime. You can catch us weekdays 5 to 7 here on the Centex Sports Network and on Infinity Sports Radio Central Texas. Also, go to the Centex Sports One app. If you guys have that on your phones, you can download the Centex Sports One app. You'll be able to watch this content or listen to this content through the app as well, or you can go to centexsports1.com to be able to listen to this content 5 to 7 every weekdays. We'll be right here. I'm still here joined with Wayne Walker as we're getting ready to look forward to some of these games this weekend. Everybody, I can't wait to be able to get in front of the TV again and catch some of these games as we get ready for week 2. Well, at least the real week 2. I know they had a couple previews a couple weeks ago, but the real week 2 in college football here. And we got to start with what I think is the game of the week. And I have no idea how this game is pushed to 11 o'clock a.m. I definitely thought this should have been the primetime game, but maybe scheduling only worked out that type of way. But Texas, the number 3 team in the nation, going to Michigan, to the Big House in Ann Arbor to take on the national champions from last year, the Michigan Wolverines. Texas coming in with a lot of expectations, a 52-0 win against Colorado State last week. And their first year in the SEC, Texas is looking good. Texas is looking real good as they get ready for this week 2 under Steve Sarkisian's coaching. And they've got Quinn Ewers under the helms as their QB. They are loaded at talent at the receiver position, and we got to see a Central Texas kid get out there and score their first touchdown of the season in Trey Wisner, the former Conley cadet, as he was able to get the first touchdown of the season for the Longhorns in their running back. And seeing these guys on Saturday, it's really got me excited to watch this game against Michigan. Michigan, on the other hand, a team that didn't look so great against the Fresno State. They actually moved back a little bit in the top 25 rankings. They beat Fresno State 30-10, but that game was close for a little while there, and Michigan was able to pull away at the end, but not exactly the most convincing win you want to see from a team coming off of a national championship. They've got a lot of questions at quarterback. They started Origi, I believe is the guy's name, and started him at QB position. He only played a couple series and ended up getting benched, and they brought in a guy that walked on to the team. He was able to play good, but taking on this Texas team, one of the best front sevens, I think, in college football. They've got a lot of dogs out there, and this is going to be a big game for not only for Michigan as national champions, but for Texas to prove that, hey, we made it to the playoffs last year, and we're here to stay. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't by mistake there, but we're coming on here, and we're here to stay. So, Wayne, what do you think about this game coming up and these two teams, powerhouse teams, playing against each other early here in the season?
Yeah. With Texas going to Michigan, 109,000,
Yeah.
Probably the biggest stadium in college football. Michigan coming off national championship under new leadership with Sharon Moore.
Yeah.
And like you said, coming off a game where they really didn't play too well, but were they looking past that game to get to this game in Texas? And like you said, when you were talking, Texas, the thing that has changed about Texas is the fact that
You keep going.
Okay. Is the fact that they are really more physical. They have transitioned to the Southeastern Conference really well. I mean, and this being their first year. But I guess they've been doing that over the last few years, but they are really physical on defense. They got some dogs over there. They recruited well, and this is a big test. If you could go to Michigan and you can knock off Michigan, and Michigan coming off a national championship in front of 100,000 fans, then, hey, you are serious contenders for real. So is Texas for real? We'll see. We'll see if they're for real, if they can go up there and beat it. And I'm pulling for Texas, the state school, go down and take care of business. And I look for them. I look for them to do that.
Yeah, right now Texas, the favorites in this one, -7.5 is what Vegas has them as, and this is going to be a big game, like you said, just for Texas to be able to establish. They've got big goals this year. Last year they were able to get to the college football playoffs. A lot of people in Austin and just in Texas in general, they're feeling like this Texas team has got a chance to make it to the national championship and make some noise if they can do it. They've got them ranked number 3 right now. Only teams in front of them are Georgia and Ohio State, and really, all those teams have the same amount of talent in my eyes on their roster. Texas is a super talented team this year. They're loaded, like I said, getting Isaiah Bond from Alabama and picking up some of these other transfers in the portal. Quinn Ewers coming back for his senior season, and he's got a lot of incentive to play well because he's got Arch Manning right on his back right now. Right. And if he makes too many mistakes, we might see a Manning in there earlier than what we think. So he's got a lot of incentive to come out here and play well, and these are the games you got to have those. If you're a team that's contending to try to get to that national championship, and in just the SEC, how loaded their schedule is, they've got to play Georgia later on in the year. They've got to play some of these other teams later on in the year. So you want to get ready for that. Oklahoma's going to be a tough game for them when they play in the Red River rivalry, as it always is. So you got to come out and try to win these games, especially when a Michigan team is kind of down and not knowing what they want to do at the quarterback position right now.
Exactly. And this is big-time college football at its best. When you talk about Michigan, Texas, you talk about Ohio State, Georgia, A&M, Oklahoma, this is big-time college football. So with the expectations Texas has, they have a loaded schedule, but they have a ton of talent. So we'll see if they can get it done. I mean, if they can get it done with the schedule that they have this year, there's nothing short of a national championship.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see if they're ready to step up to that level. Like you said, they took a step in the right direction last year, but this year is a big year for the Longhorns, and we'll see if they ready for the challenge.
Yep. We'll definitely get a chance to see that, folks. And that game is at 11 o'clock. That'll be on Fox, so we're excited to be able to watch that one. Sticking to another one of these Texas teams, and honestly the hometown team here in the Baylor Bears, as they got a pretty good win last week against Tarleton. Even though it was a team they were expected to win, they came out and did what they were supposed to do, which is always big, especially for this Baylor team, because we know sometimes these easy games don't go their way, as we saw last year against Texas State. So they came out and did what they were supposed to do against the Tarleton State, 45-3 win, and they've got their biggest test possibly of the entire season this weekend, as they're taking on the top team in the Big 12 ranking-wise, when the Utah Utes, and they're going to go to Utah to play this game. That game will be at 2:30. Huge game for Baylor. Utah looked good last week playing a lesser opponent, but nonetheless, they were able to come out and get a convincing win. Cam Rising is back at quarterback after his injury from last year. So Utah is expecting to do some big things. This game last year was really, really close, a game that wasn't decided until the final minute of the game, as Utah, I think, ended up winning by a touchdown. And this Baylor team, they've got confidence against this Utah team based off of how that went last year. They've got a new quarterback in there with DeQuan Finn that brings some more things to the table as far as athleticism. And we know he had a tremendous career at Toledo, but now he's going to have to transfer that over, and he's going to get a huge test this coming up weekend, taking on Utah, the number 11 team in the nation, and right now the projected favorite in the Big 12. So Coach Dave Aranda's got a lot on his plate. He's back coaching the defense. Defense looked pretty good last week, although they were taking on lesser competition. Right. But that D-line's got a lot of potential on that D-line. Guys like Jackie Marshall, who has kind of been a guy that was injured for the last few years, but just being around the Baylor program, a lot of people talk about how well he does in practice. He just never really got a chance to show that. He played good, led the team in tackles from the DN position, so we know that's tough to do. They've got a lot of experience in that front seven, so that's going to have to carry them. We know this is a Utah team that's physical, extremely physical, and they like to run the ball, so that's going to have to be the first thing they do is try to come in and establish some type of pecking order in that front seven between the physicalness of Utah's offensive line and the physicalness of Baylor's defensive line if they're going to have a chance in this game. Wayne, what do you think about this game coming up this weekend, Utah or Baylor going out there to Utah to try to pick up a dub?
Baylor going to Utah. Coming from the high humidity going into the high altitude, it's going to be a challenge, like you said.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tough task for Baylor, but it's a program changer. If you can go and win then you pretty much let everybody else know, hey, that we're serious about this year. And I watched the game last year, and it was a close game all the way up until the end. So you go in feeling good about your game plan and knowing what Utah is going to do and hoping to have that type of game again this year, because if you go in and you say, hey, we're only down by 7 in the fourth quarter, you always still have a chance to win. So that's what you're hoping for. But going to Utah and it gets out of hand and they get up by 21 and then it's game over.
Yeah.
But Baylor did look good. They went and took care of business against Tarleton. Now going up against the big dog and what they project to be the Big 12 winner, the team that's everybody favors. So you can go in right now and then you can put a stamp on the season by saying, hey, we coming in here, we going to Utah, and we're going to beat them, and this is what type of year we're going to have. I mean, we're turning things around. So we'll see. We'll see what Baylor's all about. This is one of those games where it's you can measure how good one team is against the other and vice versa.
Yeah, both teams got a lot to prove. Utah looking to prove that they are the top dog in this Big 12 like they're projected to do. Whenever you're the top guy, you want to be able to come out and establish dominance, especially on what most people see as a lesser Baylor team as it comes to the pecking order here in the Big 12. You know, the Big 12 is pretty loaded. You got Kansas State ranked 17, Oklahoma State ranked 16, Kansas ranked 19, Arizona ranked 20. So all these teams are kind of just stacked up right on each other. But Baylor's a team that's looking and trying to get into that mix as well. And this is a game that you got to go out and try to assert yourselves in if you want to be able to get into that mix with these other Big 12 teams.
Well, Baylor is 1-0, just like Utah is. You know, so I mean, you still have to play the game. You just have to play the game. You can predict and you can project and do all that all you want to, but you have to go out and take care of business when you get in between the white lines. So if they can go out and take care of business and be more physical and go out and show that they mean business in Utah, then everything's in the air, because I think all the teams in the Big 12, maybe except for West Virginia.
Yeah, only two teams lost.
Yeah, only two teams lost.
Houston and West Virginia.
And that's it. So everybody else is 1-0. So everybody else is feeling themselves. So now you start getting to the nitty-gritty, because now you got week 2. So if you can prepare yourself and go out and go and take care of business and go up 2-0, then you start to even feel better. So this is a big week for all of college football, everybody that's 1-0, because you either come back 2-0 or you're going to come back 1-1. So Baylor can go and beat Utah. They come back 2-0, and that changes the whole atmosphere and the whole attitude of the football team and the city and everybody that supports them.
Yeah, that could be, like you said, that's a program changer if you can go in, because the Dave Aranda era will be looked at different.
Right.
If he can go in and get a win like this. So, and I know he knows that, and I know that this Baylor team and coaching staff knows that. So they're hungry to go out there and try to get a win as well, playing on a tough Utah team. And like we said, 14 teams in the Big 12 are 1-0 coming in after week 1. Only 2 teams lose, West Virginia and the Houston Cougars. So everybody in the Big 12's got a lot of expectation right now, and the Big 12 is honestly wide open with a lot of parity in this league. So looking forward to Baylor. Like we said, that game is at 2:30 on Saturday. I believe that game will be on ESPN. So looking forward to that one for sure, and what Dave Aranda can go out there and do with his football club. Before we get off of college football, I want to talk about another one of these Big 12 teams in the Colorado Buffaloes. I know you got a chance to watch last week as they took on North Dakota State, and they were able to get a win that wasn't just, the most convincing for a lot of people, as they were able to win that one 31-26, taking on, extremely tough North Dakota State team. I don't think a lot of people know the type of pedigree that this North Dakota State team has. They put guys in the league. Right. But with that being said, they're still a D2 school, and coming off of that one, they've got a huge test this weekend as they're going to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Coach Rule, somebody that I'm fond of. I think he's a good coach for college football because he's proven it multiple times. He's done it at Temple. He's done it at Baylor. And now at Nebraska in year 2, that program's looking a lot different than they did in year 1 last year, just like how Colorado is as well. So both these teams, young programs, 2 coaches that are going into their second year with a lot of expectations, and they want to come out here and get a win. And Nebraska, first off, this is a rivalry game between the 2 schools. Colorado and Nebraska have a lot of history. I was listening to the press conference. They've got 50, 60, 70 years of taking each other on, and a lot of history just between these 2 programs, even though both the coaches are new. But the fan bases this means a lot to the fan bases. And last year, Colorado kind of embarrassed Nebraska. They went in there and they handled business, and they handled them convincingly last year as they played at Colorado. But this year it's going to be in Nebraska. This Nebraska team looks completely different than what they did last year. Dylan Raiola, the freshman quarterback, looked really, really good in Nebraska's win last week. They've got a lot of talented kids, transferred receivers from Texas and from all over the place. And these 2 teams looking to get after each other, and this Nebraska team feeling like they got a lot to prove. Right now, Nebraska the favorite in this game, and they're going to come in and try to handle business here. They're a 7.5-point favorite at home taking on Colorado. So, Wayne, what do you think about, this is a big game for both teams coming into this, but definitely a huge game for Colorado as they've got some high hopes going into this season.
Yes. Colorado coming in with a lot of hype.
Yeah.
Won their first game, beat a North Dakota State team that was pretty good. But then you go into Lincoln, Nebraska. What you do know about Matt Rule teams they're going to be well coached. They're not going to get a lot of penalties. They're not going to beat themselves, so you're going to have to go out and beat these guys. Mm-hmm. This is year 2 for him, and everywhere he's been, he's turned his programs around, as well as he was as what he did in Waco, Texas. He came and a downtrodden Baylor team had them competing for the conference every year in and year out. So his teams are going to be well coached. And if you've seen this game last year, Colorado and Nebraska, it wasn't a lot of love lost between those 2 guys. Even though they competed and they shook hands, you can kind of see the animosity between these 2 teams and the coaches. So I think that didn't sit well with Matt Rule last year, that Dion came and beat him, and they were favored. And, it was in Colorado. But I think he has probably penciled this game and underlined this game under his calendar since last year. So definitely. I think it's going to be a very, very good game. It's the game that I want to see this weekend, pretty much besides the Texas and Michigan game. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a very interesting game. It'll tell us a lot about who Colorado is this year, and it'll tell us a lot about Nebraska as well.
Yeah, Colorado, a team that, just so much potential on the team when you look at the people they've got at the skill positions, but they still a couple of those things, at least basing it off last week, that they just haven't figured out yet. And for one, that's getting to the pass rusher on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, to the passer on the defensive side of the ball. That you expect a lot from their D-line. They've got a lot of transfers that's coming in. They got a big-time transfer from Arizona State. They got some guys coming in from Houston and other schools, but they didn't exactly get to the passer in, I guess, the fashion that you would want to see, especially coming in, unit being coached by one of the legends in Warren Sapp. You expect a lot from them. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the O-line played for two things. One, in the pass protection, Shedeur was still getting hit. At times, he wasn't getting sacked as much as we saw last year, but still getting hit, and you're going against some D2 guys, honestly. Nobody on that North Dakota State D-line is probably going to the league, and Shedeur was still getting pressured. So that's going to be an issue, especially coming in Nebraska. We know one thing about Matt Rule teams, they're going to be physical, especially within that front seven. It plays with a lot of physicality, and a lot of the guys that were on that Baylor team in that front seven ended up going to the league because of the type of play that Matt Rule plays on the teams that he coaches, and their run game.
Exactly.
The run game was just almost non-existent, and so a couple things that they still that we wanted to see fixed coming into this year still looking the same as last year.
Right, in the trenches is their biggest problem. The receiving core, probably one of the best in the country. These guys running down the field, they got 3 and 4 guys that can beat you on routes. But on the defensive side of the ball, still able to run on them and push them back. And I know it takes a little time for the defense to gel, for you to come together, as well as the offensive line. It's cohesiveness, it's chemistry, it's playing together. So you have to have those things, and it takes a little time for you to gel that way. But physicality is one thing that it's you either got it or you don't.
Yeah.
And to me, they don't have the physicality. And on defense, the only positive I see is Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Even Shallow Sanders, I love Dion to death, but I think that's a weakness as far as their safety play.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter is the only thing I see positive on defense, because I think you can just push him back and just push him off the ball. The offensive line, even though they got better, guys still taking hits after he throws the ball. And sometimes he holds the ball too long, trying to make a play. So he'll have to get better at that to help his line, because sometimes you just have to throw the ball away. You just have to, instead of taking a sack and trying to run out of everything, sometimes you have to throw the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
You have to live to play another play. But all in all, they're gonna have to get better as far as in the trenches, and like you said, Matt Rule is one of those guys that's very, very adamant and very, very coaches that side of the ball and coaches that interior line, offense and defense. He's gonna have big guys, big physical guys that can block and that can rush the passer.
Yeah. He's known for that, and like you said, I mean that the trenches is what the question mark is around Colorado. We know that their skill positions are, like you said, they can compete with anybody in the country, especially at the receiver spot. When you got guys like Travis in there, you got guys like Jimmy Horn in there who went for almost 200 yards. I think he had a $198 and looked tremendous out there as well. They got the true freshman got a couple touches out there. Draylen Miller, who was a top receiver coming out of Texas, out of high school. So a lot of potential there. And you talked about him a little bit, but I wanted to talk about Travis Hunter just a little bit before we close this out and get ready to go to hour number 2. A guy that, man, I mean, just really just sticks out whenever you watch this Colorado team. 3 touchdowns, 136 yards. And the 3 touchdowns he had all were impressive. They weren't just, just get the ball and kind of walk in touchdowns. He had one off a slant where he threw a guy off of him and took it 50 yards. The other 2 catches were just phenomenal, stopping in midair. And then the last one when the guy is almost choke slamming him out of bounds, still able to get his hands out and get his hands on the ball. And then, like you said, on the defensive side, I think he only allowed he had 3 targets, only allowed 18 yards for the entire game. And He looks like a stud on the defensive end, and there's been a lot of talk about, what is this guy going to play in the NFL? Is he going to be a receiver? Is he going to be a DB? And, I mean, going into the game, I said that I thought his defensive upside was much higher just because of the way that he can shut down, honestly, a whole side of the field, really, when you're talking about taking out a guy's number one receiver. But, I mean, he is – after last week, he is special on the offensive end when you talk about his ball skills and him being able to catch the ball. And you're the perfect person to talk about this as being a former NFL receiver, former Big 12 receiver with Southwestern Conference back then when you were playing at Tech. But, I mean, what do you think about this kid? I mean, he's really just special to watch.
Well, when you talk about skill position, you talk about people that get their hands on the ball.
Yeah.
So you're talking about defensive backs. That's a skill position. Receiver, running back, anybody that touches the ball. And for him to be on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball and play at an extraordinary level, like outstanding at both, able to run routes, able to come out of routes, great hands, and then able to go out and defend the same thing, man. You're talking about somebody that's, one-on-one.
Yeah.
Going to the NFL, maybe you could get paid for both of them. You can be that prime time of this era because Dion was able to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Rob Woodson was Woodson from Michigan.
Charles Woodson
Woodson was able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some guys that have come in and been able to do that.
Yeah.
But I hadn't ever seen anyone to do it at his level. To go out and play 65 snaps on the offense and then play 50 or 60 on the defense.
Yeah.
That's putting a lot on your body, and able to do it at a high level throughout the game is outstanding.
Yeah, it's really amazing to be able to watch. I think he only sat out 2 plays on throughout the entire game. He played 98, 99% of the snaps, and to be able to see him do that is phenomenal. Guys like Champ Bailey, somebody that played on both sides of the ball. He talked a little bit about it. They asked him the question, and he said he's going to have to pick when he gets to the league. He said these dudes there's grown men out here, and it's going to be a little bit different and just the wear on your body.
Oh, just the wear on your body.
Yeah. To try to play both sides in the league is probably asking too much from a young kid.
Yeah, and maybe you can go out and you can play a few plays like Champ did.
Yeah.
For Washington and Dion did. But you won't be able to sustain that type of level of intensity and concentration on the NFL level because now you're talking about the physical toll that it takes on your body. That is a grudge match week in and week out, and that's one of those things. On Monday and Tuesday, you're in the cold tub trying to get your body back in order. So that type of physical demand in professional sports is very, very rare, and maybe he can do it, maybe he can't, but it'll be tough.
Yeah, that'll be a tough ask to do, but definitely gonna enjoy watching it in college football as Colorado, like we said, taking on Nebraska and possibly the game of the week, or at least the second game of the week if you're thinking about Texas versus Michigan. This one will be a huge one. 6:30, that game will be on NBC. Both teams coming in 1-0, both teams looking to come out 2-0, so that'll be a chess match we'll be able to watch on Saturday. Folks, want to thank everybody for watching with us so far here today. We're getting ready to go into hour number 2. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some high school football in hour number 2. I got a chance to catch up with Tony Adams, the play-by-play guy for Belton and Lake Belton. We'll get to hear my interview with him from a little bit earlier, and I'll bring PJ Gaither on as well to talk with me and Wayne about some more high school football. And at the end of hour number 2, we'll jump in on some NFL football. The NFL season is starting this weekend as well. First game is tomorrow, Chiefs versus Baltimore. So a lot to talk about. Stay tuned, folks. Stay right here on Centex Primetime. We will be right back.
When you you suffer an injury at home, work, or on the road involving a car, 18-wheeler, or motorcycle, the first thing you need to do before calling anyone is dial 1-800-INJURIES for locally owned and operated the Zimmerman Law Firm. Hey, this is Big Rich, and the Zimmerman Law Firm has represented thousands of Central Texans in the last 50-plus years and handled more personal injury cases than any other local firm. When you call the Zimmerman Law Firm, you talk to a lawyer, no matter how big or small your case, and they guarantee you're financially taken care of because they only get paid when you win. Hey, don't just take my word for it. Heart of Texas Readers' Choice has named Zimmerman Law Firm the best in Waco. So remember, if you get injured at home, work, or on the road, it just takes one call, y'all, to 1-800-INJURIES or zlawhelp.com for the Zimmerman Law Firm and tell them I told you to call. Principal Office, Waco, Texas. No fee unless you recover.
It's the family feels for me. The banana pudding peach cobbler make you want to holler. For me, it's the candy yams, mac and cheese, beef tips, pork tips and rice, collard greens. It's the sweet potato pie, sweetie. Fried chicken you've been missing, the lemon sweet tea dressing on Sundays when you all dressed up. Chest pie, buttermilk, and pound cake. Cornbread with butter just dripping, always fresh baked. If you need Southern style, soul food, home cooked meals that you can feel. Chicken and dumplings, chicken pot pie, 719 South 11th Street. Sassy's, come on by.
Are you looking for something new and unforgettable in Waco? Come to the Blazing Asian, where authentic Cambodian flavors meet creative culinary flair. Voted People's Choice as Waco's #1 Asian restaurant since 2019 by both the Wacoan Magazine and the Waco Tribune Herald. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin, we're serving up family recipes with a twist. Blazing Asian egg rolls are rolled fresh daily, and their sauces or marinades are made in-house with love. Stop by today. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin. And for Baylor students, enjoy 10% off with your student ID.
Central Texas, learn how to be a part of 254 Media Group, home of Magic 94.5, 94.5 The Beat, and CBS Sports Radio 94.5 HD2. Inquiring businesses, please call 254-252-4206. That's 254-252-4206. Or email Roy at 254mediagroup.com.
When you are tired of good enough pizza and want the only authentic Italian quality pizza in town, with dough and sauce made fresh daily in-house, vegetables freshly chopped throughout the day, and meats made using the finest beef, pork, and chicken, I present to you locally owned and operated Marco's Pizza. Marco's has 3 convenient locations to serve you, including across from Pirate Stadium in Belle Meade. Feeding the entire family piping hot, authentic Italian fresh pizza, cheesy bread, and dessert tonight is as easy as going to marcos.com or stopping by the newest location in Belle Meade. Marco's Pizza. Say goodbye to just good enough.
Book your next special event at the Belle Meade Civic Center. From quinceañeras to Christmas parties, the Civic Center has room to accommodate your needs. You're planning that special birthday party, having a family reunion, or training seminar. Book now at the Belle Meade Civic Center. And if you need to rent a room for that big event for your family or business function, the Belle Meade Civic Center is what you're looking for. Let their friendly and knowledgeable staff help take some of the hassle out of planning your next event. Call them today at 799-2418 or visit them at the Belle Meade Civic Center, conveniently located near I-35 and Loop 340. No matter if
your financial and tax professional.
Sports Radio 94.5 HD2. Inquiring businesses, please call 254-252-4206. That's 254-252-4206. Or email Roy at 254mediagroup.com.
CBS Sports Central Texas, KWBT HD2 Waco, Temple, Killeen, Fort Hood is CBS Sports Central Texas, changing sports radio.
Hello, and welcome back into hour number 2 here on Centex Primetime. Jalen Gillis still here, and I'm joined with Wayne Walker as well. Folks, we're getting ready for this high school football season. I got a chance to catch up with Tony Adams, the play-by-play guy for the Lake Belton high school football team and also Belton high school football team. Got a chance to talk with him a little bit and talk about some of the things we are expecting to see from this team after week 1, and we'll get a chance to listen to that interview right here. Hello, and welcome back to Centex Primetime. I am Jalen Gillis, and today I'm here joined by a friend of the show and a friend of the network here, Mr. Tony Adams. He does play-by-play for Lake Belton High School and for Belton High School. Also does some work with Temple College, not too far here from the studio. Tony, what's going on?
Jalen, I'm doing great. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the first week of football as much as I have, not only on the on the high school side, but the college side as well.
Oh, yeah. We've been watching football, seems like nonstop since last week started. Like you said, we got high school football, and that segued right into college football. And I'll get your opinion on a couple of those games as well as we go on here. But so you're getting ready for Lake Belton and Belton this weekend. You got to catch some of the games. We talked last week on the show about Belton, and you were getting ready for the Lake Belton game. So tell us a little bit about Lake Belton last week and their season opener, and how was that?
Well, it's really interesting. You know how Mike Tyson always said that every man's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened with Lake Belton on their first play of the game against A&M Consolidated last week. Cameron Vines returned the opening kickoff 90 yards. 11 seconds into their season, Lake Belton's already down 7-0, but Brian Cope's crew really showed a lot of grit and tenacity. They were within 5 points right there at the end with 2 minutes to go. They had the ball set up for a potential game-winning drive at their own 8-yard line. However, center quarterback exchange happened. Fumble in the end zone. Consolidated scoops it up. 33-21 win for the Tigers over Lake Belton. So that was a little bit of a heartbreaking loss. A little bookend, shaky finish there. But Lake ended up coming out looking pretty good. Of course, they're without a couple of the guys that graduated. Obviously, Micah Hudson went to Texas Tech. Selman Bridges out at Arkansas. And the guys that are filled in pretty nicely. They still have their returning quarterback, Eli Mascarenas. And he threw the ball around particularly well. 1 point of improvement that happened this week, and it happened throughout the game, was the Broncos secondary. They played really good against the Tigers passing offense, and it really showed throughout the games. They came up with a couple of third down stops, ended up +2 on the turnover battle. And it's like we talked about last week with Belton's defense. They were facing -5 in the turnover battle and only lost by 2 touchdowns. Their defenses, both defenses, have played particularly well in week number 1. And, one of the things we'll obviously get to is the improvement that you see in a season the greater improvement comes between weeks 1 and week 2. We're going to see a lot of that from a lot of these teams this week.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see a lot of that from not only teams like Lake Belton, but other teams around this Central Texas area. You have teams like Mark that dropped their first game that I think are still going to be in that going to go for another state title run. Other teams here around the Central Texas area. And like you said, week 1 is tough. You're really just trying to get back in your rhythm, get everything going while also implementing game plans and implementing things you want to see throughout the season as well. And like you said, Lake Belton, their defense, they played good. They had some good production on the offensive side of the ball. Had a running back go for almost 100 yards. The quarterback over 200 yards, like you said. So looking forward to this weekend now as they're going to take on McNeil. What are some of the things you are expecting to see from this Lake Belton squad?
Well, I expect that the interior lines are both going to be much improved. They did allow quite a bit as far as the running game is concerned. The freshman running back that ran for almost 100 yards, that was impressive. He Belton, or I should say Lake Belton, hadn't had a 100-yard rusher freshman since they were playing in their outlaw seasons, the first season 20 and 21. They had a couple of freshman backs that went for over 100. And that kid is pretty shifty for a freshman. I'll tell you, he faked some of those A&M Consolidated Tigers defenders right out of their shoes. So that'll be important to watch. Mascarenas, the quarterback, he had some of his better reads and progressions as they got later in the game. I imagine right off the cuff, McNeil will show a lot of wrinkles. A lot of people don't give McNeil the credit they deserve. They were a team that had not been above 500 for 10 years. They get their new head coach. It takes a little bit of time to get his system in, but he had his first winning season last year, the school's first in like 12 years, and they played Pflugerville Weiss right down to the wire last week. Ended up 42-41. When you lose by an extra point on that opening day, it's it leaves a sour taste in your mouth for the next week. We're fully expecting McNeil to come out swinging tomorrow night.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to a great game with that. Like you said, when you lose a game that close, you're really looking to come out the next week and make a statement. So Lake Belton's going to have their hands full taking on McNeil. That game is on Friday. Looking to the other team out there in Belton, as they've got Georgetown coming into town this week. Like you said, lost a hard-fought game last week, 14-0 game where their defense really played tremendous. And I'm sure this week they'll be looking for their offense to get more of a footing and being able to get going. Can you tell us a couple things about what we can expect from the Belton team taking on Georgetown?
Well, Georgetown is always prolific. They lost their quarterback and prolific wide receiver to graduation, but they definitely they always seem to reload, not rebuild. So with Georgetown, you're always going to get a steady dose. You're always going to have that big running back that's going to attack. You're going to have that quarterback that's going to be able to fling it all over the yards. And they've always got a beefy front line. On the defensive end, the Eagles tend to shift in and out of 3-4s. Sometimes they go for a 3-3-5. And they've always got really good linebackers and ball hawking secondary. So that'll be something that we'll get a chance to watch Belton contend with. And they had a chance to witness a good secondary with Hendrickson. But I think it's going to be a little bit more ramped up when it comes to the Georgetown Eagles.
Yeah, that game is looking to be a good one as well. And like you said, Georgetown, always a really good program. A lot of really athletic kids come out of that Georgetown program really for years now. Even back to thinking back when I was in high school, Georgetown always seems to have some really, really great athletes on their team. Tony, like you said, last week was the kickoff weekend for high school football, really for here in Central Texas, also college football around the nation. And thinking to some of these high school games, there was a lot of really good games that happened last week. We got to see a Franklin team get kind of an upset, I guess you could say, on a bigger team, a China Spring team. Midway was able to get back into the win column. You've seen that Whitney was able to take on Mart. Are there any games from last week that really caught your eye once you were able to get home and kind of settle in and look at some of these box scores and stuff?
I thought the Waco Connolly Academy game was pretty interesting. That ended up being a 24-point margin, and Troy scored 50 on Salado. That was 52-28. That was a pretty surprising outcome. Some of the smaller schools had some really big ones. I was really kind of surprised by the Lorena Regents game. That was a 51-15 game. I'm not really sure what we're looking for out of Lorena this season, but hoping to see them bounce back. A lot of the Killeen schools were playing some of the bigger metropolitan schools out of the area. Holland ended up with a good win over Bosqueville. Bartlett lost to Bosqueville, but Bartlett will be back in action against Bruceville Eddy on Friday. Holland had a good win against Burton on the road. They play Valley Mills. Coppers Cove beat Ellison. So Cove, I believe they played Nuevo Leon, who Temple played this week. Temple beat Nuevo Leon 42-26. I was kind of surprised by that. The Mexican football team was able to put up 26 on Temple's defense. However, Temple's, like we talked about last week, they got some of the OGs coming in from 10 years ago. Your Chad President, your Davion Curtis, those guys coming back. And it's like we said, they're not that far removed from the college game, and they know what the expectation is for D1 football. So, I fully expect that Temple will probably improve upon that this Friday night. But I really do think, and the other game and we can't not mention this game, was the Harker Heights Cedar Park game. That was a 5 overtime game with Heights winning 45-43, which, we're going to see a whole lot of Cedar Park in Lake Belton's district this year. It was really interesting just to see the dynamic of Heights and Cedar Park battling against each other. And that was one of the state's higher higher scored games, but at the same time, one of the most entertaining.
Yeah, super entertaining game. You're talking about going to 5 overtimes, and I mean, that's a crazy thing to be a part of when you're doing a game like that, and to be able to see your team go to 5 overtimes. So looking forward to a lot of good football as we move into the week. And Tony Adams gets to come on here and join with us and talk some football, talk some Lake Belton and some Belton football as well. Folks, we're going to get back into the action here as we have some more topics to talk about here on Centex Primetime. We'll be back. Stay tuned. Yeah, folks, so that was the interview we got to have with Tony Adams, the play-by-play guy for the Lake Belton High School and for Belton High School as well. So, folks, we want to stay there and talk about some high school football that we got on here. Still here joined with Wayne Walker here in set, and also bringing in over the phones, we got PJ Gaither here as well with us. And we're going to talk about some of these high school football games, folks, that we got to see from last weekend and that we got coming up this weekend. Another really good weekend of football, especially here in the Central Texas area. PJ, do you got me over there to see if you can hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're getting ready for a lot of good games this weekend coming up, and I want to talk about some of these games that we got to see last week in the opening weekend of high school football, and definitely the opening weekend for Central Texas football here in the Centex and Greater Waco area. One of the main ones that I got a chance to see, and we'll talk La Vega football, as we know that is here on the station. You can listen to that every Friday night, La Vega football, right here on 94 FM and 94.5 Magic. Also here on the Infinity Sports Central Texas radio as well. Their games will be broadcasted live here at 7 p.m. We also have the post-game show. But before we go to La Vega, I want to talk about a game that I got to watch that was a little bit surprising in Franklin, going to China Spring, and being able to come out with a major win there in convincing fashion. They pulled out that game 46-30. We know Franklin, a team that was just in the state high school championship, a team that's got a chance to win a couple of them here in the last 5-6 years, and a team that's looking to get back to the state championships in their division. I know they're in a little bit lower division than China Spring. I believe they're 3A Division 1. China Spring 4A Division 2. And China Spring is on not a down year, but they've got some changes that they have to make. They made some changes at coaching to start with. New head coach in there. They made changes at the QB position as they graduated 2 studs back-to-back, as Major Bowden was there a few years ago, one of the better dual-threat quarterbacks in the Central Texas area. And then Cash McCollum last year, a guy that just had a cannon for an arm, and he's at North Texas right now, furthering his football career. They've got a new guy coming in, Matthew Battles, and he's coming in with a lot of expectations, because there is a lot of expectation at that QB spot when you're playing for China Spring. And he looked good, but the team just was outmatched by Franklin. Franklin, really good program, like I said, and they came out and made a statement going and playing at China Spring. That's a tough place to play, as I know, and PJ knows as well, as he's been to a bunch of those games and got to play in some of those games as well. That's a tough place to play, and Franklin came out, made a statement, 46-30 win. So, Wayne, I'll start with you, man. What do you think about this Franklin team and them going in and getting the dub in China Spring?
Statement they did make. They came down, traveled down to China Springs and took care of business. Yeah. And that's not easy to do. A lot of expectations in Franklin this year. They returned one of the best running backs in the state.
Yeah.
But you have to come out and you have to, when you're going into someone else's home, you have to go in and you have to whoop them. And they came in and they whooped China Springs. China Springs, on the other hand, is a team that lost a lot of talent. Traditionally great team. A lot of changes, especially when you make changes as in the head coach. So it takes a little time. So look for China Springs to get better and better throughout the season because they're always going to have talent. Franklin, on the other hand, they come back down this weekend, and they play Lorena, I think, or Lorena goes there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how serious and how serious Franklin is this year. But it's a lot of high expectations. I have some friends in Franklin, and they've been bragging the whole week about what they did when they came to China Springs and took on China Springs. So, you can have expectations, but they have to be met. So we'll see what they do. But that's my take on China Springs and Franklin going in different directions. One trending up and one trending down. So we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. PJ, what do you think about this game from last week, Franklin getting the dub against China Spring at China Spring?
Well, initially I was surprised, but then I realized China Spring, a lot of guys last year. There was a lot of seniors that ended up leaving. So it's going to take them some time, to just get back into rhythm. I don't think they would just have a terrible year. I think it'll be a down year for sure. They might win a few games, definitely going into district play. But Franklin looks really good. Their running game is looking like it did last year and like it always do. So I'm very impressed by Franklin. I think they're going to have a really good year this year.
Yeah, a lot of good players out there in Franklin, like you said, and the Jackson kid there, running back, he's been good for the last few years, honestly, for Franklin, and he came out, showed out in a big way once again as they were able to get a dub. I do like this China Spring quarterback. I do think he's young, and he'll take up or not young because he's an upperclassman, but he doesn't have the experience of some of the upperclassmen that's coming in because how deep the QB position has been. But he was throwing some bombs out there against Franklin towards the end of that game. They were trying to get back in the game, and he let a few of them go that I was like, okay, this kid's got an arm. So I'll be excited to see what he can do as they go further into the season. Like you said, Franklin taking on Lorena this weekend as well. In that game, I expect Franklin to come back out and be able to get a win. This Lorena team, a good team as well, but another one of these teams that graduated. A lot of good kids. They got the Porter kid that's on now at Baylor. And so they've lost some guys. They still got some good pieces there. They've got a D tackle there, Blackwell, I believe is his last name, and he's got an offer from Baylor. So they got a tight end, I believe, that's got an offer from Air Force. So Lorena's got some talent out there as well. And this Franklin team, we know the type of talent that they're bringing into this, but I expect Franklin to come out with a win in that game. I want to talk about the game that was here on the station with La Vega taking on Kennedale. That was last week, and La Vega came out, and they made a statement. We talked about them a little bit last week. Wayne was up here on the show and talked about how we got to go to that scrimmage when they played Waco High, so we got to see a little bit of action of how La Vega would look, and they came in and they wanted to make a statement. La Vega's looking to get back into that upper echelon of the 4A Division II ranks, and Coach Hyde is itching to get back to there, and they made a great step forward in getting to that in a 45-15 win over Kennedale, a Kennedale team that was pretty good last year. So they weren't expected to just come in and steamroll them, but they did. Starting from the opening kickoff, they brought a kickback all the way to the house to start the game off. That kind of set the tone, and from there on out, La Vega's defense really just took over. They didn't give Kennedale much of anything, and really was just too high-powered on the offensive side and the defensive side. The Thornton kid that's out there, we know his older brother was at quarterback last year for the Pirates. He's graduated, and he's on at Texas State, I believe, playing football there. And but the younger brother, he's looking good as well, and he got a chance. I think he was the player of the game here on the radio station, had over 100 yards total between rushing and receiving as well. So this La Vega team is coming back. They've retooled, and they're looking good once again. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on PJ. We can start with you. What you think about this La Vega team getting a 30-point win over Kennedale last week?
Well, we kind of talked about it a few days ago. Kennedale, they're a really good team. So to see how La Vega played against them was really impressive. I mean, Bryson Rosen, like I said, he been looking like this since his freshman year of high school. Been one of my favorite backs for, I'll say, the last the last like four years maybe. He's been one of my favorite backs in Central Texas for sure. I was really impressed by the defense, though. The defense really looked good, the secondary, and even in the trenches, they were getting a lot of push. I think La Vega, they're gonna, put themselves back into the upper echelon, definitely in 4A Division II this year. And then this week they got Salina, coming up, so that's gonna be a really good test for them. That's really gonna show where they're at right now. And to play a team, of that caliber this early in the season, whether you lose or if you want to win, but even if you do lose, if you play against these guys really good, it's really going to show you where you are as a team right now. And you're only going to get better as the season, continues.
Yeah, that's true. And I 100% agree with your point about Bryson Rowland, somebody that's been making a name for himself since he was a freshman. He's been starting on his team since he's a freshman. He's got a chance to get into the top 25, I believe, of all-time rushers in the greater Waco area, as he's going to go over the 5,000 yard mark for his career this year, and got a chance to go even further than that. Wayne, what did you think about this La Vega team taking on Kennedale last week?
As PJ said, a model of consistency in how they were able to go out and beat a good Kennedale team shows how serious and how good their team. They look crisp. I seen some highlights. They look crisp. And they were very, very dominant and in control of that ball game. So it looks like La Vega's trending up. They had a down year last year, but those guys from last year took that experience on the field and brought it back into this year, and they look like a whole different ball team. They look fast, they look quick, they look strong and dominant.
Yeah. Coach Hyde getting ready and gearing up for another great season. They'll have a big test this weekend, as we know that their pre-district schedule is always loaded. Coach Hyde loves to give his team some tests before they get into district play so they can know what type of team they're going to have as they go forward. And they're taking on Salina this weekend, so that's going to be a huge game. And we'll see how this La Vega team does out there. I'm expecting them to come out with the W in that one, taking on a really good Salina team. Folks, want to thank everybody for watching with us so far. As I'm here in hour number 2 talking with PJ Gaither and Wayne Walker, going through some of this high school football, and want to touch on somebody that's kind of, they're a staple here in Waco as far as a school, but kind of the new kids on the block when you're talking about getting back up in that upper echelon of good football play, and that's the University Trojans, as they're under new coaching leadership with Coach K-Ron Johnson, been there for the last few years, and he's done a tremendous job of being able to turn this team around. They've got a lot of good kids on this team. When you think about the top recruit in Central Texas with London Smith out there at receiver, as University was able to get a win over Keller Central 41-26, as they looked good in that game. London Smith, 8 catches for 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Their running back, Ladarius Evans, looked good out there. He had 14 carries for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the kind of the young guy of the crew, somebody that's definitely a friend of some of the people here on the show, Savoy Nichols, going out there quarterback, and putting on for the Young Guns, went 19 for 26, 290 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. Also had another one rushing. This University team is loaded. I mean, when you're going through some of these names that we're just talking about, this team has a lot of potential on what they can do moving forward in the season. And Wayne, I know you were going to try to catch some of this game, that University game. So I want to get your opinion on man, what does this University team look like, not only last week, but going forward throughout the season?
And they got these guys playing with a lot of confidence. And at the skill position levels, quarterback with Savoy, Landon, man, they look great combination, hooking up, running the ball. Defense looks well. All 3 phases of the ball game, they played pretty decent and pretty good football. So I'm interested to see moving forward with what University is going to be about. But as far as I can see from the eye test, they look good. They look like they're going to be one of the best teams in Central Texas this year. So I'll be watching a lot of those games.
Yeah, I'm going to try to catch as many of those as I can. As you said, Coach Johnson's got the team from the South Side playing pretty good so far. PJ, what do you think about this University squad and their win last week and then going forward in the season?
I've been excited about them, man. I guess for the last 2 years, a lot of these guys that's on the team, a lot of us know them, you know what I mean, younger guys that's on the team. So it's been exciting seeing them play varsity and everything, and they're doing really good. I've already said I think that they're the best team, not even just in Waco, but they could possibly be one of the best teams in Central Texas. They have a lot of guys. They're loaded pretty much at every position, definitely like in the skill positions. And, I mean, last week they looked really good. This week they got Granbury. I think they're going to beat them probably. I got them winning probably by three touchdowns against them or more.
Yeah.
They're really one of the teams right now, I would say, in Waco that they're very exciting to watch. You know what I mean? And you got a lot of other teams that are too, but this University team, it's just something about them, man. They're explosive, and it's just fun to watch these guys. And I think the sky's the limit for them, man, as long as everyone stay healthy. And I really do believe they're going to keep on getting better as the season goes. They're going to play, a few better teams as the season goes. They got Shoemaker, they got Land Passes, they got Ellison. They got a few people on the schedule that'll possibly, give them a better game than these first 2 weeks. But, I'm excited to watch them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, super excited to watch them. Like you said, they got Granbury this weekend, and we expect for them to take care of business against Granbury. But after that, they've got this China Spring team that's going to be looking to get some get back as far as playing some good teams. As China Spring they're taking on Bastrop this weekend, and I think they'll be able to get a win against Bastrop. But the University game, that's going to be the game of the week in week 3 when China Spring comes to University to take them on, and University will get their first real test of the season. And I'm excited to see how those guys fare against them, and we'll talk about them more as we get closer and closer to that game. But like you said, University, they're looking good as we start this season. Kind of a shocking score that we got to see from this last weekend was Whitney taking on Mart, and we know Whitney is a few classifications above of Mart. They're 3A, I believe, Division I, and Mart is 2A, Division II. So we know that they're a much bigger school, but Mart, being a powerhouse team in Central Texas, thought that this game would have been a little bit different, but Whitney came out and showed that they had a lot to prove as they beat Mart 42-8 in a shocking fashion. Not shocking because they won, but just shocking because of how they did it. And this Whitney team's got some talent on it. I know a lot of people might not be paying attention to some of the football going out there in the country in Whitney, but you got to look out for this Whitney team as we move forward into the season. They got some guys and some offers on that team as well, and they got a running back that's a stud out there. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Jonte Johnson against Mart, 24 carries, 256 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also had 4 catches for 58 yards. So in total, had over 300 yards of total offense. I mean, you're putting up numbers like that against a team that just lost in the state championship last year in the Mart Panthers. I think it means a lot for this Whitney program in moving forward as they go throughout the season. But I'm not going to be down on this Mart program either. Like I said, they're playing a team that was that's bigger than them, honestly, and has more students, more depth on that team as well. And I've got nothing to worry about with this Mart team. They've proven to be, like you guys talked about earlier with La Vega, a model of consistency. And as far as getting to the state championship just about every single year, it seems. And I'm excited to see them be able to go once again. But Wayne, let's start with you. What did you think about seeing that score and that none of us really expected to see like that, and 42-8 win with Whitney?
Well, the score was surprising to me as well. Mm-hmm. But one thing I know about Whitney, they're very well coached. Coach Haynes does a tremendous job. A kid that I know his father, and he's one of those guys that goes out and is passionate about his job, and he's gonna breed winners. And they've been trending up for the last few years. Mm-hmm. Ever since he's been there, got these guys in the weight room, got them in the off-season program, doing great things, and he's building a program. So when you're building a program, you expect to win. You expect your guys to go out and compete, and that's what he got these guys going out and doing. So while the score was surprising, I know that Coach Haynes is a great guy, and he's a great coach, and like I said, he's going to breed winners. On the other hand, with Mart, like you said, they're going to be back. They were outmanned, outclassed last weekend. This will be an important game for them this weekend because they're not used to losing like that. So their confidence is kind of shaken. So we'll see how they rebound from that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they'll be able to rebound from that. And like you said, I know that they will. They're taking on Maypearl this weekend, and definitely expecting Mart to come out there and get a win in that. And like you said, Coach Haynes has done a phenomenal job in what he's been doing with that Whitney program. I believe his son's got an offer already. His son's one of the kids out there, I believe, in at the receiver position, plays a few different positions. He's got an offer from Baylor already. So they're making some noise out there in Whitney, and I'm excited to be able to watch this program going forward. PJ, what do you think about that Whitney versus Mart game?
I was surprised by the score as well. I remember you telling me, though, man, before week one, you was telling me about a lot of the kids that was at Whitney, a few of the guys on the team that got offered. I kind of started doing my own homework, and I was like, man, they are kind of, they do have a few guys. So I was surprised by the score. But, I mean, Whitney looking really good this year, honestly. I think they're going to be, they're the District 5 3A?
Yeah. They're in 3A Division 1, yeah, District 5, yeah.
So they're going to be good, most definitely, this year. With Mart, I'm not really too worried. We've seen Mart sometimes, not a lot at all. But we've seen them, lose a game, and then they always seem to bounce back. So I think they're going to bounce back. They were just going up against a team that was just better than them, this past week, and sometimes it be like that. But I don't really have any doubts that they're going to bounce back. Definitely for the rest of the season, I think they're going to still be pretty good.
Yeah, I expect this team to be back. Like you said, I mean, the team that pretty much lives in the state championship is what it seems like, especially over the last 20 years. Mart, one of the most historic programs in not only Central Texas football, but in all of Texas high school football. So I'm not worried about them at all, and I know what type of noise they can make coming up for the rest of this season. And folks, there's a lot of good games going on around football, Central Texas football this weekend. We got, like I said, China Spring taking on Bastrop. That La Vega Salina game probably going to be the biggest game for any of these teams. As Salina, a very formidable opponent, and La Vega's going to have their hands full. Midway looked great last week. PJ, both me and you, alma mater, they looked great this weekend, going out there getting a 43-7 win against Westwood. So excited to see what they're going to do going forward as they got Cedar Ridge University will be taking on Granbury, and Franklin versus Lorena will be one of the bigger matchups in this Central Texas area going forward. Before we get off the high school football, and we'll talk a little bit of NFLs, we got about 20 minutes left here in the show. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this DeSoto team, the state champions from last year. They got a chance to play one of the state's best teams in Georgia. It was a Creekside out there from Georgia. They were the runner-up in 5A and one of the better teams in Georgia. And we know there's always these debates about, who's got the best high school football. Everybody in Florida feels like they got the best. In Texas, as you all know, we definitely feel like we have the best. Georgia has been in there, especially with the type of talent that they're putting out in California as well. And you don't really get a chance to see some of these matchups take place. But this last weekend, we did get to see that matchup take place as DeSoto took on Creekside. And DeSoto beat Creekside 70-0. Everyone heard that correctly. The score was 70-0. Creekside, one of the better teams in Georgia, coming out to play one of our better teams in DeSoto. And DeSoto put on for the state exactly how they should put on for the state. So, Wayne, what do you think about just a DeSoto team, for one, getting to play a Georgia team like that? I know it's not often you get to see some of those cross-state matchups like that, but, man, I mean, just putting it on this team and kind of settling some of this debate about Texas and Georgia football.
Well, Jalen, you said it best, man. The score speaks for itself. You know, basically they were on a vacation trip because they didn't come to play football. But you know, when you could try to compare states and you try to compare Texas, Georgia, you know, Florida, Oklahoma, all these teams, everybody brags about their high school football.
Yep.
But Texas is always going to be king, man. It's just something about Texas football and the aurora that we have here in Texas. So I feel sorry for the kids from Georgia, but man, I feel good about what DeSoto did to those kids from Georgia because man, this is our state. This is where we live. This is where we played high school football at, and Texas football is king. So, great job, DeSoto. But you know, you can't come down south with that. You know, you can't come down to the south side to Texas thinking you're gonna come down here and dominate. Because I if you look at social media, you've seen a lot of stuff on social media about them potentially thinking Georgia was gonna win, and then you go out and get beat 70-0. So, just great job by DeSoto.
Definitely great job by DeSoto putting on for the whole state. PJ, what you think about this game, man? Creekside getting smacked by DeSoto 70-0.
Well, I had a feeling that was going to happen. DeSoto that is to me the best team in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Last year, and most definitely this year. I'm very familiar with Georgia since that's where my dad from the Atlanta metro area. So I'm very familiar with a lot of their schools. Creekside, I would say this is going to be one of their down years. They lost a lot of guys. Now that is the school where guys like Eric Berry, what's the safety that just transferred from Alabama to Ohio State? Caleb Downs.
Yeah, Caleb Downs. Yeah.
You know, that is a school that you got guys that came out of Creekside, that was really good, and that's located like on the south side of Atlanta, or south more. It's more going down south of Atlanta, like towards Fairburn. But Creekside, they're a really good school. I've seen a lot of guys on Twitter. It was kind of making me mad. They were like, "Oh, well, this isn't fair." They not even in the top, because they're not in the top 20 or I think top 25 this year, but they still were the 5A state runner-ups from last year. So you can't really take that away and say that they're not one of the better teams in Georgia, because they are considered one of the better teams in Georgia for sure, year in and year out. They're probably not this year. They're not Langston Hughes or Buford, Milton, Colquitt County, Lee County. They're not one of those schools, or Valdosta down in South Georgia. They're not one of the top schools this year, but they are still year in and year out still considered one of the top schools, and you can't say that they're trash. Now, you can't say that now. Whenever just last year, they were 5A state runner-ups. Yeah. And in reality, if you was to move DeSoto to the state of Georgia, DeSoto would be the size of a 5A school in Georgia, because Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, I think they go up to 7A out there.
Mm-hmm.
They go up to 7A. DeSoto barely making 6A.
Yeah.
In Texas, they're barely making 6A, in Texas. So in Georgia, they will for sure be playing schools like Creekside, North Gwinnett, Norcross. They'll be playing those schools in Georgia that are considered 5A. So you can't really say that it wasn't fair. It's Texas. Like I said, it's different. And shout out to the Georgia boys. Like I say, that's pretty much like my second home. That's what my whole dad side of the family are in Georgia. So I know how good they can be. And we've seen a lot of guys come out of Georgia, like I just named two of them, Eric Berry, who was one of my favorite safeties, back in the day for sure. But Texas is just different, man. We bred different down here. I honestly feel like we the best state. I don't really see too many. I say Georgia, Florida, and California. Those are the only states that I really look at that could possibly give us some type of competition. And even then, it's still a little bit different when you speak on like California, because their best schools are prep schools.
Yeah, they don't count. Y'all recruiting people.
The private schools, they don't count. Yeah, like you was to put, if you was to put them against us, you would have to go get Inglewood High. You have to go get Crenshaw. Like you have to go get your public school to come down here and play our public school, because they bring in St. John Bosco to come play at El Paso school when El Paso don't make no noise in high school football.
Yeah. I don't know why they did that.
El Paso makes no noise in high school football, but y'all bring St. John Bosco to come play at El Paso school. They don't make no sense to me. So I'm gonna shout out Georgia, because at least they did bring a public school, you know what I mean, to come down here and play one of our better public schools. So, like I say, I don't feel like anybody really just messing with Texas as a whole. I got respect for certain states with their football, but I still don't think that it's better.
No, for sure. I agree. And DeSoto did what they were supposed to do, man. And you know everybody gonna try to cop some pleas after the fact that they lost. Now they not good no more. And now they not to stay. Hey, man, 70-0. It wasn't like they said they came out here and it was a close game, 70-0. And as far as California, they don't want no type of smoke. They out there with college. If you got dorms for high school, bro, you're not a high school, man. Like what? Who got dorms in their high school? These is baby colleges out there in California that they're trying to put up for high school football teams. But you know that's a whole nother debate for another day, talking about those teams. But shout out to Soto for being able to pick up that win, man, and put on for the whole state of Texas. Folks, we're getting ready for getting near the last few minutes of the show. Want to talk about some of this NFL stuff, man. This NFL is kicking off tomorrow on Thursday. I'm definitely excited to see this as Baltimore is taking on Kansas City in a rematch of the AFC Championship game. Baltimore coming into this one as an underdog, as expected. I mean, you're taking on Kansas City. Kansas City picked right now as a 3-point favorite over the Baltimore Ravens. Kansas City with a chance to three-peat, something that's really just crazy to say for football. It's not like basketball when you really only need, if you can keep your core 2 or 3 guys in basketball, you have a chance to compete every single year, a la Mike and Scotty, Kobe and Shaq, LeBron, D-Wade, stuff like that. Football is a completely different story. It's 53 players. Not only is there so much change because of salary cap, but guys can get injured. This is a 100% injury sport, so guys can get injured at any point. You know, you're not sure if you're going to bring back the same guys. You can try to keep a core together, but it's so hard to be able to be good for this many years in a row. Kansas City, a chance to go for a three-peat, man, and I want to see what you guys think about the start of this football season, and we'll start with this Baltimore versus Kansas City game, man. Like, what do you think about what the Chiefs can accomplish, and then what do you think about this game, Wayne? We'll go ahead and start with you.
Man, this is my football, NFL football. I love it, and you got 2 of the better teams in the AFC, probably two of the top 3-4 teams in the AFC playing, starting the season off. First game, you got 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league playing against each other, and it's interesting to see. Can Kansas City reclaim? And they don't even have to reclaim because they already own it.
Yeah.
But can they stay at the top of the throne? Can they stay on the throne? And Baltimore is one of these teams that went out and got them a running back this year to go with Lamar. Can they knock Kansas City off this throne? So it's going to be interesting. Definitely, probably one of the best way to start the NFL season.
Yeah.
And in Kansas City they got this guy from my alma mater, Texas Tech.
Yeah.
That's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. And man, it's hard to be the guy that's this young and this good, and that's just only going to get better. And like you say, he brings his quarterback, changing up some things, but the offensive line, a few changes they made. With the receiver, they got Rice coming back, but at the running back, they got Pacheco, and they got Hilaire. I think he's on injury reserve right now.
Clyde Edwards,
Yeah, but they still got Travis Kelce.
So, when got Samaje Perine too. Added to go back there with him.
Yeah, so these guys are going to be good, and they're my my favorite for the Super Bowl right now is Kansas City. So I can't wait to see this game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go against that, to not have Kansas City as the favorite, because last year I definitely didn't have Kansas City as the favorite to do anything, and I was proven completely wrong. As the season got towards the end, I kind of seen how it was trending and was like, man, I'm not gonna make the mistake of betting against 15 anymore. And he definitely came out there and proved it once again. PJ, what do you think about this game this weekend or tomorrow, Baltimore versus Kansas City?
This is an interesting game. It can really go either way.
Yeah,
I'm excited to watch this game. I feel like this is going to be the best game of Week 1 in the NFL. You're looking at the Chiefs team, though, that they got a lot of speed right now at receiver. Of course, they got Rice from last year, but as far as like with the speed, I'm mostly speaking on guys like Xavier Worthy, Miko Hardman, Hollywood Brown.
Yeah,
they went and got some guys. You still got to worry about guys like Sky Moore, too. You know, they got a few guys, and then went and got Juju Smith, who came back during the offseason. So I think they're reloaded for sure. I'm really excited to see how all of those receivers are going to mesh well with Mahomes. I think they're going to be really explosive offensively. And on the defensive side, they're still going to be pretty good. You still got guys like Nick Bolton, who to me a really slept on player for sure with the Chiefs. He's done. I think he got 2 rings now, and he's done. I mean, just phenomenal on the defensive side. Really one of the better players on the defensive side of the ball for them. And then you go to the Ravens, who, like we were saying, they went and got Derrick Henry. I'm excited about that too, just because I think that with him and Lamar on the same team, it's going to be unstoppable. Honestly, I wouldn't be against them guys just running the option. I mean, a lot. Because, I mean, they're going to be, both of those guys unstoppable, man, definitely when they got the ball in their hand. And then their receiver, I'm a big fan of Flowers, Zay Flowers. I really think last year he had a really good rookie year. A lot of guys always try to give him, some flack and say that they don't really have receivers. But I like Zay Flowers. I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he can have a breakout year this year. I think he's going to get the ball way more than what he did last year. And like I say, it can go either way tomorrow. I got the Ravens possibly coming out with the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs win.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would be surprised about Mahomes winning, Andy Reid winning. That's just the pedigree that they have on this team. It's going to be exceptional to watch as the season progresses, how they can maintain winning. It's so hard to be able to maintain winning, and not many teams have been able to do it just throughout the history of football. I mean, you think about New England and the run that they had with Tom, and you think about before that, even in the 90s with the Cowboys and what they were able to accomplish, and even a team that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but I think is extremely impressive, the Bills in the 90s, to be able to get to that many Super Bowls in a row. They weren't able to close it out, but to be able to just maintain that level of winning for that long is really ridiculous in the NFL when you think about, like I said, how injuries work against you, how salary cap works against you. It's so hard to get once you win, everybody wants to get paid after that. And to be able to keep their core guys, I know that the Chiefs lost L'Jarius Sneed to the Tennessee Titans. He went on to get paid, but Trent McDuffie was one of the best corners in the NFL last year. They kept him. Nick Bolton, like you talked about, on the defensive side of the ball, PJ, and Chris Jones, who is now that Aaron Donald is retired, is the best D tackle in the league, and somebody that shows up in a huge way. I don't think they would have probably almost any of these Super Bowls without a Chris Jones on that line, because he's been the mainstay as far as rushing the quarterback and controlling the run game as well as that defensive tackle spot. So, I mean, the sky is the limit for the Chiefs, and I'm excited to see what they can do going out for the rest of this year. And looking at some of these other teams before we wrap up here, folks, I want to get both of you two opinion on some of these teams, man, and what do you think can happen throughout the rest of this year? We know the Chiefs are sitting up here. We talked about a team like the Ravens. We know the 49ers. But I think that there's some chances for some other teams in the league this year to really make a leap and to really make a lot of noise in the NFL and really going into this playoff picture. And I'll start with some of the teams I think can make a lot of noise. One, I think with Aaron Rodgers coming back, I think the Jets have a chance to try to make some noise. If they can stay healthy, this team has got a lot of talent. They got Aaron Rodgers coming back if he stays healthy. Breece Hall in the backfield if he stays healthy. We've seen what he can be able to do. Garrett Wilson, I think, one of the best receivers in the league. He just hasn't had a chance to get a quarterback. He's been out there seeing, honestly, some of the worst quarterback play in the league between Zach Wilson and some of the other guys that they've thrown in there as well. Then they bring in a Mike Williams from the Chargers and the guys they have on the defensive side of the ball, C.J. Mosley, and bringing in Hassan Reddick if they get into play. I don't understand what they got going on with the holdout scenario there, but Sauce Gardner back there in the secondary as well. I think the Jets are a team that can make a lot of noise coming out of this AFC. And in the NFC, there's a couple of teams I think can make some noise, but I think the Detroit Lions really are built to really take that next step. They got to all the way to the NFC Championship last year and just couldn't get over that hump, even though they had the lead over the 49ers at one point, kind of collapsed towards the end of there. But this team has been trending upwards every single year, and they just picked up even more talent, got more talented. Jared Goff, a steady quarterback, not a guy that's just going to wow you with some amazing throws, but somebody that's a very steady quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best receivers in the league, somebody that should get a lot more credit. And you got guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in the backfield, top 3 O-line in the league, Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm excited to see what the Detroit Lions can do, and I want to ask you guys, what are some teams that you think are just can make a lot of noise this year that maybe everybody's not talking about? Maybe if it's a team that's coming back and is going to come back up, or a team that was down and that's retooled and has a chance to be able to make some noise. And Wayne, I'll ask you the question first. Just what are some teams, when you think about some of these teams in the league, that can really just kind of shake things up for both of these conferences?
Well, like you said, in the AFC, the Jets could be formidable.
Mm-hmm.
Everything depends on Aaron Rodgers, really, because their defense had him in every ball game last year, and they did not have their offense was terrible. I mean,
it's horrible.
They couldn't score, but they wasn't scored on a lot. So everything depends on Aaron Rodgers. If he can go down and score points for him, because all their points were scored on defensive field goals. I think they were the worst offense in the whole league last year, and they still won 6 ball games. I would say so. Everything depends on Aaron Rodgers. So they're up and coming. I think Cincinnati is going to be one of those teams that comes back up. Joe Burrow is going to be healthy. Well, if he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they lost T. Higgins, I think they did.
He's still there. Yeah, he's still there. One more year.
One more year. He came back on the franchise tag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be one of those teams that's going to be good in the AFC. But those are only 2 teams that I can see coming back and really kind of making some noise in the AFC. In the NFC, you want to talk about Detroit. Detroit can take that step, but everybody knows about Detroit, so I'm going to say Green Bay. Green Bay is going to be one of those teams that I think is going to take that next step, and I think they'll be great. And I think between them and Detroit in that same NFC North division, with Minnesota and also with Chicago, I think that's going to be the most competitive division. I can see Philadelphia getting back there. You know, they had a down year last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they started off hot, but they made a few changes. You know, Barkley coming in.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to make a world of difference for them. And I think Jalen Hurts needs to use his legs a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to be explosive offensively. They need to kind of work on their back end of their defense, their secondary. But if they fix those things with that explosive offense, I think they'll be great. And I'm looking at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay as well. And Baker Mayfield had a comeback year last year. Mike Evans was great for them. They got a great offense, and you know they're gonna have a good defense. So those teams I think will be the teams that'll kind of make some noise.
Yeah, that Tampa Bay team is a team not a lot of people talking about, but like you said, they won the division last year. They're a 9-win team, and bringing Baker Mayfield back, they got him a deal. Their offensive line is going to be better this year. Their defense is going to be good as usual. So a team that not a lot of people are talking about. And then both teams that you said, Green Bay and Philly, they play on Friday. So we'll get a chance to see if Green Bay goes in there and gets a win. That could be huge for that Green Bay team, a young team that is building a lot of confidence. Before we get off here, PJ, what are the couple teams, man, you think that you're excited to watch this year that can make some noise in the league?
Well, I was gonna say the Jets as well, but I've been a big fan of them this entire off season. But I'm gonna try to go to different and say the Texans. I'm really envious, low key, of y'all. Dallas Cowboys, they're not incompetent. They actually make some moves to help the team get better. But man, I think y'all gonna be loaded this year, man. Definitely looking at y'all offense. I mean, y'all got guys like Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Robert Woods.
Yeah. I
think in the backfield is Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
So
Cam Akers too.
The sky's the limit for the Texans. I really feel like in the AFC they could possibly they could be that third team in the AFC that that can be a problem really for the Chiefs or the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the Texans in the AFC, and I'm gonna stay in the NFC North for the NFC. I got the Chicago Bears. I don't think that they're gonna be coming out the NFC North just this early. But at the same time, I do think that they could possibly give the two teams in the NFC North that are going to be good with the Packers and the Lions. They can give them, a good battle every time they play.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to see how the Chicago team is going to look. They're loaded at the receiver core. I feel like their defense has gotten better too. And I just really want to see how Caleb Williams is going to translate, into the regular season. He had a really good preseason, had them going 4-0 in the preseason. But, the regular season is different. You're not really going to be playing against guys that are, trying to make the roster. These guys, you're playing against starters. You know what I mean? So I just want to see how he's going to be, out there during the regular season. But I don't think he's going to be bad. He's just a natural. He's a natural man at the position. I think he's going to do really good. Like I said, I think it's too early to have them coming out the NFC North, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did,
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to watch that Chicago team too, and they've been on Hard Knocks and got to be on TV, and everybody's got a chance to see them. So that they got a lot of people that's going to be coming for them too. How they always try to do against the Hard Knocks teams. But a lot of good football to look forward to this weekend. Want to thank everybody for watching with us here today. We're going to be back tomorrow 5 to 7. Make sure you tune in as we get ready to preview some more NFL as they get ready to kick off the season tomorrow. Folks, thanks everybody for watching with us. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube and also check us out on CentexSports1.com. We will be back here tomorrow 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We will see you guys then. Everybody have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
CBS Sports Central Texas, KWBT HD2 Waco, Temple, Killeen, Fort Hood is CBS Sports Central Texas, changing sports radio.
Coast One